everybody, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Be Differential podcast. I'm your host, Ava Gregory, and this week we are joined by F4 racing driver Ella White. Welcome.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. I'm so excited to hear your story and have you join today. Before we really dive in, is there anything you'd like the listeners to know, just a bit about you, high level?
Yeah, so I'm 18 years old. I'm an F4 driver. I started racing last year when I was 17, and I'm super excited to be here.
This is so exciting. I love that you just started a year ago, and here we are, because some of the accolades that we're going to get into are pretty dang iconic. So before we get into that deep dive, will you tell us, what was your first kind of introduction to motorsport?
So I've always kind of loved cars and racing when I was younger. I mean, I live in Colorado, so we have a lot of hill climbs and rally events and not really like formula cars and sports cars and stuff. But I've always sort of loved that aspect. And I started really getting into watching F1 more in 2021. I knew it was a thing when I was younger, but my parents weren't super big into watching it. So I never really got plopped down in front of the TV, and like every weekend we would watch the races. So I started really watching in 2021, and that came based off of a YouTube video, actually. I watched this YouTube video called like Daniel Ricciardo rates racing movies, how accurate they are. And that was really where my like spark for F1 started, and I've been a big fan ever since.
That's incredible. So, okay, that was your introduction to it. You mentioned that you started racing last year, but what was kind of the thought of like, okay, how did we go from watching a YouTube video with Daniel Ricciardo to getting behind the wheel? What did that look like?
So my parents offered to let me go to the Vegas Grand Prix in 2024, which was my first live F1 race, first live race in general, which was incredible. And I came back from that race, and I was like, I really want to be involved somehow, like in the racing world. And I wasn't sure quite how to do it, but I've always been an adrenaline junkie. Even my mom says, like, when she was pregnant with me, she's like, this kid's going to be an adrenaline junkie. Like, it's going to be insane. So I knew I wanted to do it somehow, and I looked at a racing school, which is very similar to like Skip Barber, but it's Berg Racing School. And I saw this program and I was like, ooh, this looks really like something I would love to do. And it was like learning how to drive formula cars, getting behind the wheel, and I was like entranced by it, I guess is the best way to say it. And I do a lot of convincing to my parents. They were not really into it. I mean, my dad, he lived in Florida, so we went to the Daytona 500 a few times, and so he was a little familiar with racing, but he was like, my mom was not for it at all. She was like, it's dangerous, you're gonna get hurt. And I was like, Mom, I'm not, I promise, it's pretty safe. So I had to do quite a bit of convincing, but from there, yeah, I pretty much did the racing school and then got scouted for F4.
That pipeline is ridiculous, just so you know, Ella. Like, oh, I don't know, I just did it, and then I was like scouted. Whack, but insane. I love this so much. Okay, wait, I want to ask really quick before I ask deeper questions. So you started when you were 17 a year ago. Did you finish school when you started your racing career, or were you still finishing?
Was still finishing high school, so I just graduated in May of this year. So I was in my junior year of high school, and we do an IB school, so we're not an AP school, but it's International Baccalaureate, so it's an international program that is very similar to AP. So I had a bunch of exams and stuff while I was still racing, which was a lot, but it was still really fun, and I figured out how to do it, and I graduated with honors. So
yes, ma'am. Okay. No, I love that. You know what? I think that's such a good example though of somebody that's dedicated. You're gonna figure it out and get it done. So no, I love that. Okay, so now let's talk about this. Let's actually get into it. You went from your first ever Formula car experience, you did a driving school, you got scouted, to signing with Berg Racing. I mean, that's insane. What has that journey felt like from the inside? I mean, I imagine there's a mix of emotions, but really from how it's felt to what it's actually looked like. Can you just share a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was pretty crazy to me. I was not expecting to be scouted into F4.
Hey, Ella, that's crazy in general, not just to you, girl.
not expecting that at all. I mean, considering I had never done karting, I was not really sure how far I would be able to get up in the world of motorsports right away.
Yeah.
So I was very, very, very happy when Alex Berg, who is the sporting director for my team, reached out to me and he's like, hey, we would love to have you come test. And I knew the Bergs from Berg Racing School. So I had met Alan, who he is a 9-time Formula One driver. So he did nine Grand Prix. So I had met him and I was like, oh, this is super cool. I would love to figure out how to be like work for your team. Like I was like, I don't even care if I get to drive for the team. I will go literally do anything. Let me be involved. So I was super excited about that. And then I get this email from Alex and he's like, hey, we would love to have you come test. Here's like our testing packages. And I'm like, whoa, this is insane. And I had just come off of having like a 5-month break of not being in a car. So I was like, I haven't driven in like 5 months. So I was kind of wondering where my career would go because it was the middle of December. You don't really race in December.
Right.
And I get this email and I'm like, oh my God. But so I get to go test at Sebring, which is an incredible track. I never in my wildest dreams thought I would be able to drive there. And we didn't get to do the full international layout, which was kind of disappointing. But we did get to do like the club layout, which was still really cool. And that was actually when my high school finals were. So I had to get my high school finals moved to be able to do this test, which was kind of insane. Especially it was my finals because I was a high school senior. So I had my senior finals that week. So that was really crazy. And then I got stuck in the Orlando airport afterwards because my flight got canceled. So it was quite a crazy time, but it was like the most insane journey I've ever like been on. I had no idea that it was going to work out. And I had kind of a bad like first day in the real cars because they're very, very different than the school cars that I learned to drive in. So it was very, very different and hard and just took a lot to wrap my mind around. And I was like, oh, shoot, I'm not going to make the team. Like, I don't think that this is going to work out, like, because I drove kind of terribly. And then Alex was like, no, you're fine. Like, it's fine. Everyone makes mistakes. Like, you're totally great. Like, and I pretty much got offered to sign with them even like the day that I showed up to do the test. Like they're like yeah, we'll do this test and just make sure that you don't like destroy our cars, but like pretty much you're good for the team. And I was like, what the heck is happening right now? This is the craziest thing ever.
Like you had built that rapport before, which I will say on this podcast especially, I always emphasize networking because that gets you so many places.
It gets you so
it's
far.
So important. Like I feel like growing up, I'm just gonna go on a tangent really quick, but like I always struggled with this like hard work is everything. And it is very important, don't get me wrong. But like if there are opportunities because of networking, optimize that. Okay. Anyway,
exactly.
I love that for you. Wait, so I want to linger on Sebring for just a second. Sebring is generally like one of the most challenging tracks ever. Even, you know, the IMSA drivers that go there talk about how much, you know, their tagline is respect the bumps, right? Like it is so aggressive. Yeah. It is so brutal. What was that experience like? You're saying, you know, okay, it was not maybe your best or you didn't feel your best or something like that, but talk about, was that your first time on the track?
Yes. So that was my first time ever driving Sebring. I have a sim, so I drove it a few times on the sim, but I actually drove the wrong layout. So that was a bit of an issue. And my Alex had never driven the track in this layout in this car. So we kind of had no idea what it was going to be like at all. And then the first session, for some reason, somehow my car broke down a little bit, so I had to get towed back. And I was like, oh, shoot, I broke the car. I messed up real bad. I broke the car and I didn't. Luckily, it was just something that needed to be fixed. But yeah, it was insane. We didn't drive the long front straight or the long back straight. So we drove the more, in a sense, like technical part of the track, which was really, really, really fun. It is really bumpy, but honestly, it's not the bumpiest track I've ever driven on.
Really? Wait, I have to ask, what was that?
Yeah. NOLA Motorsports
Oh,
Park is probably the bumpiest track I've ever driven on. That would be because it's paved on a swamp. So every time that you go, it becomes a new layout because of how much the ground moves. So it was nice to know that like it wasn't the bumpiest, but it was still pretty bad. And honestly, it was just a big learning curve for me. I mean, I didn't know any other track really than Laguna Seca because it's where I learned. And they're such different tracks. So it was very much a learning curve, and also learning the new car and learning how to finesse every millisecond out of the car was something that definitely I took a while to learn. But honestly, it all just kind of happened at once. Like
yeah.
it, in a way, it was really daunting, but also not, because I had no real weight on my shoulders. It was just get out in the car, drive the car, get used to the cards, and do what you can do. And that was what basically Sebring was for me.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I love that because especially for you, that's a good like reference point going back as you build your career to say like, okay, this was like this low pressure starting point and I could see my skill set to go back to and see the growth. I love that. So you've
exactly.
mentioned Alex a couple of times. Am I right? Is Alex the son of Alan?
Yes, he
Okay.
is.
I feel like, so I used to work at Red Atlanta and I feel like I've met
Perfect.
both of them inadvertently. And
Yeah,
I
you
think
probably
that,
have.
yeah, so I was just like tying these back together. But anyway, Alex has described you as having the will and proper desire to do all of this after working with you personally. What do you think he saw in you? And I don't know, what were you trying to show? Like, I guess you had built this rapport and relationship to some extent, but like, what do you think stood out? I mean, what did you do, girl?
I would say it's probably my perseverance. I
Yeah.
mean, I have always had a lot of perseverance in pretty much every single sport I've played. I mean, I was a competitive swimmer. I had to quit because of an injury, but
Mm,
I always like pushed through, did the best that I could. And I think that's what probably shown through the best. There we go.
yeah.
But because, I mean, even if I would have a bad session, I would go back and I would take a deep breath. I would try to chill out. I would go watch, because there was other sessions being held on track at the
Sure.
same time. It was actually USF cars. So there
Okay.
was USF 2000, USF Pro cars. So oh, that's another thing. I was driving with USF Junior cars, and they
Okay.
are like 5 seconds a lap faster than I was at Sebring, and I was the only one of my car. So it was definitely daunting as well because I was
Yeah.
having to deal with like passing traffic and traffic. So that was definitely something that honestly has helped me a lot, though, because I had in the back of my mind like how to drive through traffic and how traffic can pass you, and that really is helpful in my series now. But yeah, so I would come back from a session and I would watch the other drivers, and I'd just try to take a deep breath and take what I could from the data and the video and try to just apply that the best I could. And even if I would have a bad session or I would spin, I would try to just like put it out of my mind and just try to be determined and persevere through all of it.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. So you and kind of proved that already as the first female driver ever in Berg Racing history, which is
Yeah.
incredible. I'm just going to say that about 800 more times and inflate your ego on this podcast, but no, it really is. It really is special. And I'm curious, what has this year looked like so far for you in that role in the driving position, and then just your first season really like coming into your own and with Berg Racing?
It's an incredible feeling. I race with another girl. Her name's Ava Hansen, and she is incredible. I want to be like her when I grow up, even though she's younger than me. So, she's someone who I really look up to. So it's been great to like not like race with her in a way. So that's been super nice, and it's really fun getting to see all these young girls because we get a reasonable fan turnout at a lot of events, considering we race with Formula Regionals America and we race with a lot of the SVRA
Hmm.
races. So we get a lot of fans, which is really nice. And it's really nice when get to see like little young girls come walk up and they're like, oh my gosh, there's a girl and she drives a purple car. And I'm like, yeah, I do. And it's like one of the best feelings, and honestly, because it's like I didn't know when I was younger that this was an option. inspiration for me. And now that I get to see these young girls who are like, I want to be like her one day, it warms my heart
Yeah.
because I never had that idea that it would be something like that. And it's incredible. In terms of my first season, I started off pretty rough in
We have to
NOLA.
start somewhere. Okay, we really do.
Exactly. It was pretty rough. I'll just say, I'll leave it at that. I finished at the back every single time, which sucks, but it's gonna be what it's gonna be. And honestly, I would not be surprised if NOLA is not on the calendar anymore because of how bad the track is. And
Really?
it's a really fun track if you have like the correct kind of car. And honestly, I don't think any of the Formula cars are the right kind of car for that track. And it's just so bumpy. It's so bad. There's a bump going into turn 1 that sits right on the braking zone. So if you hit it the wrong way, you'll lock the tires and it can catch you. And you have to like fling your car over it to get on the curb. So it was definitely a learning curve, especially the first track I've ever been to, like for a competitive race series is that track. And I'm like, oh my God. But it was hard for sure. But it definitely was like a good way to learn. And I learned a lot from that. And I lost a lot of my bad habits at NOLA, which is really good. And then we went to Road America, which is an incredible track. I will never stop talking about Road America. It is probably my favorite track we've driven on this year. And the turnout of fans is crazy. Like, and we got to be like on like the big live screen TVs and stuff. And it was incredible. Unfortunately, well, first in the first race, I got my best finish. I have tied now my best finish, but my best finish ever of 4th. So I was super close off the podium. But unfortunately we ended under a full course yellow. So I wasn't able to make the moves to the podium and I would have been passing my teammate. And we don't really have rules of engagement, but he's definitely a better driver than me. So I was like, I'm going to let him have that.
Respect,
he can have that. Yeah, he can have that. And then unfortunately in race 2, I did crash. That's where this front wing is from, actually. It was really unfortunate. I was following 2 cars at the start of the race and I locked my brakes, all 4 tires, going into turn 5, which is a super steep, like downhill braking zone. And I was just correcting the car, and it wouldn't come back, and it just flung me into the wall. And my race was over. It was unfortunate. And of course, I was in 5th place when that happened too. And I was like, dang it, I could have had a run on it, but it is what it is, and I learned from it, and it was like, I'm not going to do that again, so I know what not to do. And then our race 3 was canceled because it was torrential downpouring, so I only ever got 1 race at Road America, which kind of is disappointing because I would love to go back there and do better, because it's a crazy track.
It's a great track. And it's
we
so
do
long,
track
too.
walks. Yeah, we do track walks, and it's insane, the elevation. And I live in the mountains, and I was like, oh my God, this is so steep. I had no idea, because you don't really get that from driving on the sim or looking at a track map. It's insane. And then we had a few we had a month and a half, a month and a half off, which was great. And I went to Europe, actually, and which was so fun because we went to the Monza GT World Challenge race, which was incredible. And they had that crazy crash at turn 1, and I was sitting right there, so that was really fun to see. And I actually got to meet the Iron Dames while I was there, which was incredible because I love them. I love all of them, so I was like, this is crazy. And then we did a bunch of stuff with Ferrari, went to the Ferrari factory, which was so cool. Literally living my nerd dreams. Let me go look at all the old F1 cars, please. Please. And then we went to Mugello, and my mom surprised me with a track day, which was so fun. So my dad and I got to drive GT4 cars on Mugello for the day, which was incredible. So I got to drive a Cayman GT4 RS Porsche, and I think it was a 488 GTB Ferrari, which was insane. I'd never had that experience in my entire life. but it was crazy. But it was honestly validating in a way because after I had those two like not so great races at the beginning of the season, I got to go in these really, really cool cars, and we had to have an instructor with us, which was interesting to say the least. I've never driven in a car when I've had someone next to me, but all the instructors are like, "Oh my gosh, you're really fast." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that makes me feel so good." But it was really, really fun. And then we went to the Monaco Grand Prix actually, which was incredible. It was so cool. And like you said, I networked. I networked the heck out of that event, and that it was so, so, so cool. And then we came back and we had a lot of trouble getting back, unfortunately. Our flights all got canceled. So, and I
Oh my
had to
goodness.
be in mid-Ohio the day after we were supposed to get back, and all of our flights got canceled. So that was crazy. Luckily we made it back. But then we went to Mid-Ohio, which is such a technical track, but it's so fun. It's so beautiful too. And I was really surprised because I was like, it's the middle of Ohio. Like, it can't be that fun and that cool, but it was really fun and cool. Um, so that was really, really fun. I had a fifth place and two seventh places from those races. So I was okay with that. The seventh places weren't my best and weren't my favorite, but honestly, all three of us, the Berg drivers, we really struggled there because we all are very limited in our experience.
Mm,
So we all struggled when it came to that technical of a track, and it's just you have to be so committed with the car and trust the car so much, and us not having that significant amount of experience that all the other drivers on the grid have, we definitely struggled a little bit, but it was still an incredible learning experience, and I love that track. So and then I
absolutely.
just got and I just got back from New Jersey, Noticers Park actually, which was again a little bit of a struggle of a weekend, but I mean, I'll take the highlights. I got another fourth place, which was great. And then a sixth and a seventh place. So again, like it was okay. I mean, I'll definitely take it, and it puts me up place in the championship, so I'm super happy about that. So yeah, that's kind
I
of how
love
my
that.
season's gone so
I
far.
know. I love that you guys were just up at NJMP. I actually have a friend who works with the series, and I got to see her while she was on her
Cool.
way because I just moved to Delaware, so I'm like in not far from NJMP now. But
Yeah.
so what is I'm actually I don't recall off the top of my head what's the field size for the like class that you're in.
So it gets really chaotic because we have it does. We have it depends. It fluctuates weekend to weekend. On our first weekend in NOLA, we had a 10-car field for
Okay.
our class. And then we run the Gen 1 of the F4 car, which was introduced in I cannot remember off the top of my head, but it was introduced in like the 2010s, I believe. We'll
Okay.
leave it at that, I think. And then there's the Gen 2 cars, which were introduced in 2022, and they have the Halo. And we have two Gen 2 cars that race with us, and they run a detuned engine. So they're supposed to be equal. They're not. They're roughly it again depends track to track, but they can be anywhere from like 1 to 5 seconds faster than us. So we have those two, and so it's our field spread is usually like 12 if we're including the Gen 2s to like 10. So
Okay.
sometimes we fluctuate at that much. But it's all really close racing, and so it's really, really, really fun.
Yeah.
And it's honestly, I think sometimes racing with a smaller grid is really fun as well because it's really nice that you're guaranteed points.
Yeah.
But but it's also really fun because you know the drivers personally, and you
Right.
know their style of driving, and you know how much commitment they can take into this corner or where they might be slightly
Yeah.
weaker. And so it's nice to know your opponents really well.
That's a good perspective. You can kind of anticipate, who you're surrounded by and who you're coming up
Yeah.
on. That's a good point. So, okay, I'm curious. You mentioned a lot of your sim time, which is really important. And the more that I've talked to more and more drivers, that is like the
Yeah.
number one resource people recommend. What has your training and development looked like in your first season from, beginning to
Mhm.
now?
Yeah, so I do a lot of time on my sim. when I'm not working or not at school, it's usually an hour and a half a day. So it's a lot, and it's not necessarily just the tracks that we're racing on next, or even the car that I'm racing in, because they don't have our car on like
Sure.
iRacing or anything like that. So usually it's a mix of doing like the daily races on iRacing, and then splitting it about in half with training the track that I'm driving next, which for me is VIR. So I'll usually split it about half and half. And honestly, even racing in like GT cars, GT4 cars is super useful because it gives you a different perspective of the track, and you can feel it's kind of hard to describe, but you can feel the force feedback differently in each car.
Mm.
So, and honestly, if you drive a myriad of different cars, you get like a better feeling for even the car that you're going to drive in general, and you get to like a feel of weight transfer and stuff. So that's super useful. And I've even done a little bit of like dirt racing, which I think is fun, because it helps you feel the slip of the car and get comfortable with like the back end kicking out on you a little bit. So I do a lot of sim time. My parents don't like it because I do it in the middle of the night, because that's when I feel most productive. And my room is right above theirs, and sometimes they can hear my sim. And they sat, the first time I did it at night, they're like, Ella, why are you vacuuming? And I'm like, I'm not vacuuming, it's my sim. So
God.
they've gotten used to it now because they understand, and they're like,
Sure.
well, you should definitely, if you're gonna crash the car on the sim, not on in real life.
Yeah,
Saves
let's
money.
develop those. Yeah.
So they're gotten a lot used to it now. But yeah, I mean, I love driving on my sim. It's also really fun. If you get into like a good race with some good drivers, it's really fun, but it can also be very chaotic.
I'm sure.
So
I love that. Well, yeah, like I said, I feel like I've heard that has become a true tool and resource for so many drivers.
yeah.
And along those lines, as you're thinking about development, you've mentioned that F1 Academy is a stated goal of yours. I'm curious what the roadmap between right now and what that end goal actually looks like. What are some things that you're kind of mapping out? I mean, coming in and doing this for essentially a year and having F1 Academy as the goal is just absolutely amazing. But what do you think really has to be done to make that become realized?
Yeah, so my goals for the end of this season are to get my podium. My Alex definitely thinks it's possible, and so does my other coaches. So we're aiming for that, fingers crossed. And that'll be a really good, honestly, rookie season for me. And then most likely I will be racing in the same series again next year. With some potential interests in Asia, that I haven't been able to like fully accept yet or really explore just because of budget, which
Hmm.
sucks. But just reaching myself out there, potentially doing a winter series, depending on how that works with college. So kind of all of that together. And then my goal for next season is, if I get the chance, I would love to wildcard an F1 Academy event. And that would be like my main goal for next year if I do feel ready, because I don't want to go into an F1 Academy season feeling unprepared. I want to go in and do well. And I think that will come with more experience.
Hmm.
And if that takes me 2 more years in this series, or even a year in FR or something, like honestly, as when I feel comfortable and ready for it, I'm sure that it'll come. And so then either I'm hoping F1 Academy in 2028 or 2029, so that would be my main goal. Yeah.
I think that's great. It's awesome to have the goals and to see, the path forward and just really dig in. I think that's amazing. So, along those lines, you've talked about kind of wanting to help grow female participation in motorsport. You shared that there's been a good fan turnouts and things like that. What do you think is one of the bigger barriers that keeps women and young girls off the grid?
I think honestly, it's just, in a way, it's like lack of awareness that you can do it. And that's honestly pushed a lot through like the old sexist ways of motorsport. I mean, if you look at motorsport, especially when I was like a young girl, like you didn't really see a lot of women in racing. I mean, there was Danica Patrick and a few other drivers, but like it was honestly, you didn't see them there. And I think the lack of like seeing women driving, honestly, it was a big barrier for me. Like, I had no idea. And when I like first started watching F1 and the W series and F1 Academy, I was like, oh my gosh, there's opportunities, there's ways that I can get into this. And my goal is it's hard because sometimes I am the only woman in a series. Luckily, I'm not this year because I have Ava. But I want to be that like vision that other women and girls can see, like, oh, there's a girl racing in this series, that's cool, that means I can also do this. And that's sort of my goal, is just to increase visibility for us, because I mean, often you see like a lot of women not in racing but working in the paddock, which I think is incredible. Like, we need more women engineers, we need more women strategists, and I just think that all of that in general, and then also seeing women drivers, I think is really, really important.
No, absolutely. Increasing the visibility is going to empower everyone involved. So I think that's a great answer. As we're starting to kind of close out here, your path into motorsport definitely did not follow like any rule book that I have ever seen laid out. And that's incredible. That's amazing. What would you say to someone who maybe thinks that they've missed their window because they didn't start karting at 5, or they weren't, doing MX5 Cup at 15 or something like that?
I'd say just go for it. I mean, one of my teammates is 22. You don't have to be like a child, honestly, to race in the series. Like, I race against children who are like a lot younger than me, and that's fine. But you can still be super successful if you have the right mindset. If you have the mindset to be able to learn and drop bad habits as you learn and drive more and gain more experience, then you're going to be successful. And if you have perseverance and determination, that's something that's super useful as well. So yeah, my teammate, his name is Tyler. He's 22 and he did Berg Racing School in 2023 and 2025. So he had a big gap in time when he wasn't racing, but he's still doing really well in our series. And it's just proof that like you don't have to start when you're 5. You can start whenever you want. Sure, some people are going to have advantages going in when they start at 5 if they've done karting for 10 years, and that's just the way that it works. And I mean, every other driver except the 3 Berg drivers all did karting when they were younger that I raced against. And we still are able to put ourselves up there. I mean, Berg Racing has 2 podiums this season. So we're still able to show like, hey, if you get into it one way or another and you have the determination and perseverance and will to do it, you can be successful. And I think that, honestly, again, visibility, if people see like, oh, this is where they started and this is where they are now, and they're able to get here not through like just starting when you were 5, like that's something that I think is also super valuable.
No, I love that. On this podcast, I absolutely love highlighting the non-traditional paths that people have. So that's incredible. Along those lines, though, I'm going to ask, what do you think the hardest part of this journey is that maybe isn't always highlighted?
Yeah, so I think honestly, I mean, it's highlighted a lot, but funding, it's
Yeah.
so hard. It's so hard. My mom's a teacher and my dad is an engineer who works in public health. So we are not super rich in the sense of the term. I mean, we definitely are well off and we're able to afford this season through sponsorship and some partners that I have, but it's so hard. My teammate Tyler, he's only able to do this season because he got super lucky with a sponsor. And he doesn't know if he'll be racing again next year. I honestly don't know if I'm racing next year because of funding. And that honestly is really hard because there are kids who, well, again, had the money to be put into karting at 5. And they have infinite sources of money that can get them pretty far up because it does become a money game. If you have the money, you can be in the car every weekend testing whenever you want, which is super, super useful. Or you can pay for another set of tires for the weekend. I mean, tires are crazy expensive. You wouldn't think it, but a pair of our Hankook racing tires is about like 1,200 for a slick set. And that's a lot when it comes to a race weekend. And that's a lot for people to afford. And it's maintaining the cars and all these things that a lot of people don't think about. Like, they understand it's a super expensive sport, but they also don't think like, oh, this is where all the money goes,
Right.
which is hard. And our championship doesn't, I mean, it has a decent prize, which is really nice. We get the automatics. If you win the championship, you get the automatic step up into F4 US, which is really, really good. Except that F4 US isn't a super good championship at the moment. The cars aren't super great. So there's definitely that barrier. And if you don't win, sorry, my cats are doing something. And if you don't win, you don't get anything. So even if you come second in the championship, I think there's a smaller prize in third as well, but it's not enough to get you another year of racing if you don't have the money. And that's definitely really hard. And honestly, I think another thing is the travel. I think I've been at home for like a consecutively like 2 weeks this entire summer, and in total probably 4 weeks. It's just crazy. Like, even we have like these month gaps in between races, but it's, oh, I'm going to this area to do some karting, or I'm going to watch my friend race and I need to be there to support her, or something like that. And it's just a lot of travel, and it's kind of hard not to be at home for a long time. And I miss seeing my friends, which sucks because a lot of my friends are going abroad for school. So I've unfortunately missed them and missed their time when they're at home. So it kind of sucks because I'm like, well, now I'm going to fly out and see you, I guess. I guess I'll figure out how to get my butt to Europe to see you. It's like everything, it just becomes a part of your life, and it becomes your whole life. And it's hard, but it's incredible because you get to drive race cars. So
no, it's so true. There's so much sacrifice that goes into it. And you're right. I think funding is the one thing that's highlighted, but even just the other items you listed out, your social life does not exist. Like, your, enjoying being at home is so few and far between. And when you're there, you gain a much deeper appreciation of being at home and all of these things. So yeah, they're really, really good points. And I think it's valuable for people to hear that, especially if they're considering, is this something I want to pursue? It isn't just money you have to figure out. There's these other elements too.
Yeah.
Along those lines,
traveling can get really expensive. That's the other thing.
I know. I was just looking recently. Like, flights are expensive, don't get me wrong, but like, they are so insane recently. Like, I don't know. I mean, many things are happening and contributing, but like, good Lord, it is insane.
Yeah. And the bad part is for racing is you don't have any flexibility. You have to be there on a certain date. And if flights are really expensive, then you have to like toy with the fact if you want to go like a day or two early, but then you spend more money on the hotel, and it's like, oh my goodness, it's insane. It's crazy.
So true. It's so true. Well, on these Debbie Downer notes of the realities of racing, I'm going to ask, for someone that is kind of like maybe interested, or just for the listeners here, like, what would you want them to walk away from after hearing our conversation today? I mean, this can be uplifting, this can be realism, this can be whatever you want it to be, Ella.
I'd say just go for it. If you want to work in motorsports, go for it. Put yourself out there, and you would be surprised the amount of connections that your circle will have within motorsports. I mean, I have made so many connections to people that I had no idea that were connected in motorsports. And honestly, put yourself out there, be you, don't change yourself to fit the mold of like a sponsor or a team or someone who you don't want to be. Stay true to yourself, and that'll help immensely. And just go for it. Honestly, I mean, I just went for it, and now I'm an F4 driver. So that is my best piece of advice.
What a statement. That's the clip right there. But no, I think this is so good. Ella, thank you so much for sharing just the smallest like clip of your experience and journey so far. I really appreciate you taking the time. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. We will have all of Ella's information in the description so you can find her and keep up with her journey with ease. And we'll see you next week. Bye.